Today I'm going to show you how to make a basic white bread recipe from scratch. It's really easy and all you need is flour. Now this could be bread flour, but it doesn't have to be, just all-purpose. You need a little tiny bit of oil. I use olive oil, some yeast. Now you might want to use bread machine yeast or just regular Fleischmann's, and then some sugar, and let's get started. Normally I don't measure any of the ingredients that carefully, but for the sake of this video, let's do a half a cup of warm water. What we're doing is we're preparing the yeast. That's called proofing the yeast. Okay, a tablespoon of sugar, and then a tablespoon of the yeast. All right, I guess I gotta pour it in. And it doesn't even have to be that much yeast. Look at it, it's not even a full tablespoon. I mix it together with a fork. Just try to get all of that freeze-dried yeast suspended in there. And in about 5 or 10 minutes, this is all going to be nice and puffy, and the yeast are going to be happy, getting ready to rise the bread. It's been less than 10 minutes, and you see how much the yeast has frothed this up, so we are definitely ready to go. Go ahead and add 3 cups of flour, and again, doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, doesn't have to be sifted or anything like that. I mean, it might make it better, I don't know, but my bread always comes out just fine. While you're at it, if you want it to have a little salt, go ahead. I'm thinking maybe no more than a half a teaspoon, quarter of a teaspoon of salt. Okay, to your flour mixture, with just a little salt, remember, you can do about a tablespoon of oil, and then your yeast solution, which has proofed. And the recipe calls for a cup of water. I would start a little less than 1 cup. So let's try, that was probably 7/8 of a cup. And I like to get it started with just a silicone spatula. You're just working it in from the edges, trying to get it to come into a doughy ball. And now, the big problem a lot of people have is that it becomes too sticky. I'm going to show you how to deal with that. A recipe cannot tell you how to deal with the texture of the bread ball. Okay, so the dough, the bread, will be determined by the quality of the dough. And what I mean by quality, not the ingredients, but just what it feels like as you knead it and as you let it rise, and everything before you put it in the oven. So if it looks bad or feels bad going into the oven, it's gonna look bad coming out of the oven. Okay, so you see how sticky this is? It's not quite like, rubber cement, but it's pretty sticky. So, we got our flour over here, and I'm very, very generous with the flour. So I'm gonna sprinkle more flour in here, and I just want it on the outside, okay? So I'm not squishing this bread all up and together, I'm just trying to get it on the outside. Now, it's starting to feel almost like a warm water balloon, and you can tell that the inside is still liquidy, but the outside is now not sticky. So now we're ready to knead it on the countertop. Again, sprinkle a good amount of flour. And you see how that didn't stick? Didn't stick to the bowl? That's good. So now, I just kind of flatten it down, flip it, make sure all those outsides get covered in flour. And I wish that you guys could feel this, but basically, like I said, it's sort of like a water balloon. Now there's a little stickiness, so we have to keep adding more flour. And here's where I'm kind of rolling. I'm not squishing it, I'm rolling it in this flour, and a little bit of pressure, Look, you just kind of want it in a ball. Bring your pan back, just stick it in there. Now look at how low that is. Look at how short that is. I'm gonna leave it like this for about a half an hour in a very special warm place. Okay, to let the bread rise, here's my secret. You simply hit bake. It'll probably automatically start at 350. Hit start, and now literally just leave it preheating for like a minute. You just want to warm up the oven. You do not want it 350 degrees. Cover it up with a kitchen towel or any type of fabric, and then come over here, turn your oven off. This has literally been less than 2 minutes. And if I put my hand in here, See, it's really not hot. It's just warm, and I'm gonna put this on the top rack. So everything's turned off. I don't even know what temperature that is, but I'm gonna let it rise for about 30 minutes. It's been about 30 minutes for our bread dough to rise, and let's see how it looks. Again, the oven is not on, it's just warm. So you see we're doing pretty well here. Let's go ahead and knead it. So I've got my floured surface. I'm just gonna dump it out and start kneading. You see that there's a little bit of stickiness in the bottom of the pan? We're gonna take some of that up, just stick it back in there, and you see how sticky that is. So dust it liberally with more flour. Just try to work that outside so that it's not sticky anymore. That's the whole key to all of this. You want it light and you want it airy, but you don't want it sticky and dense. Put it back in the pan and back in the warm, barely warm oven for about another 30 minutes. Now I gotta go pick some beans from the garden, so it might be more than 30 minutes, but I'll show you the next round. All right, this is the third time this is being kneaded. And again, you see how much it rose. And plop it down onto a floured surface. And this time, I've got more sticking in there. So what I'm gonna do is just try to add some flour and get that out. Add it to the rest. And same thing as before, just lots of flour, trying to keep it from being overly sticky. Working it in. And this is really soft. I mean, it is so soft. Okay, at this point, because I'm gonna make 2 loaves, I'm gonna pinch it in half. But if you wanted a bigger loaf, just keep it as one. If you want a bunch of little smaller baguettes, you do that. So I'm basically making French bread, which will be thicker than a baguette, not as long as a baguette, but skinnier than a typical loaf of bread. Okay, so a little bit more flour. The whole thing, again, is just to make sure that it's not sticky on the outside. The inside is fine, because that's the part that's going to rise. So here's one ball, and here's the other ball. They're not even the same shape. And now I'm going to start making them into a loaf. Okay. If you get wrinkles like this, put them on the bottom. And I'm just kind of squeezing a little bit. Okay, I'll make this one even longer. And roll it out sort of like a snake, like when you're making a snake out of clay. Okay, so now I'm bringing it over to my bread pan, and it's not a bread pan. It's just a cookie sheet. And I'm squishing it out, because this is gonna rise, and then gonna do the same thing with the other. And now what I'm gonna do, because it's French bread, is I'm just gonna do a few diagonal slices, and as it rises, that will actually kind of separate and split open. And now I'm gonna cover it up and let it rise on the pan. So I'm gonna cover it up with my towel, put it back in the oven, warm up the oven a little bit like I showed you before, let it rise for another 30 minutes. All right, I think the bread is done. The bread is done. I've just got it cooling here, and it's lightly brown on the top, and I'll show you what it looks like when I slice a piece in just a couple minutes. And here's the finished product. Nice, light, fluffy, white bread.